Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Emily Hiles, and joining us this evening from the Royal Australian Air Force is Wing Commander Michael Garside. This year commemorates the 50th anniversary of the abolishment of the National Service Scheme, which was ended on the 5th of December 1972. The National Service Act 1964 required males aged 20 years and older to register to serve in the Defence Force for a period of 2 years continuous service, followed by 3 years in the Reserve Forces. In 1965, the Defence Act was amended, and as a result, national servicemen, known as NASHOs, could be sent overseas and indeed were deployed to Vietnam. Between 1965 and 1972, more than 800,000 men registered for national service. Around 63,000 NASHOs were conscripted and more than 15,000 served in the Vietnam War. Over 200 NASHOs were killed and 1,200 were wounded. This evening, we remember all those who died during their service and whose names are recorded here on the Roll of Honour. We also remember those survivors who returned home. We warmly welcome the members of the National Servicemen's Association of Australia who are here with us this evening. We also warmly welcome Wing Commander Bob Howe, retired, representing the Air Force Association. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Epping Public School, New South Wales. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Douglas Javing Salveron. Douglas Salveron was born in Brisbane on the 17th of February 1945, the son of Francisco and Clarissa Salvaron. Douglas's father, Francisco, left his wife and daughters in Manila to serve with the United States Army in 1941 when the Japanese invaded the Philippines. He lost contact with his family after being evacuated from Corregidor to Brisbane. Clarissa Gray met Francisco when she took her daughter Lorraine to watch the ships at Brisbane's docks, and she and Salvaron began a relationship. Though not married, she took his name, and in 1944, a daughter, Frances, named for her father, was born to the couple. The following year, Douglas, named after General Douglas MacArthur, was born. By then, Francisco had left Australia in order to accompany General MacArthur as his aide-de-camp on operations in the Pacific. When MacArthur triumphantly waded ashore at Leyte Island in October 1944, Francisco was with him. Francisco found his original family near Manila in January 1945, and MacArthur later sponsored Francisco and his family to emigrate to the United States. This left Clarissa to rear Frances and Douglas by herself. Frances was kept back a year so that she and Douglas could attend school together. After year 8, Clarissa could no longer afford to send the children to school, and they both went to work. Douglas began working as an office boy with the shipping firm Abel, Lemon and Company, and worked his way up to shipping manager. In 1965, now aged 20, Douglas received his call-up papers for service with the Army. His employer told him that his job would be waiting for him when he returned. During basic training with the 1st Recruit Training Battalion at Kapuka, Salvaron excelled and was awarded a plaque as the best rifle shot in the platoon. After completing his initial training at Singleton, he was posted to the 6th Battalion, Royal Australian Regiment, joining 6th Section, 11 Platoon, D Company. In preparation for deployment to Vietnam, the men undertook exercises at Canungra and Shoalwater Bay. When the 6th Battalion arrived in Saigon in May and June 1966, the main Australian base at Nui Dat had just been established, and the 1st Australian Task Force, to which 6 RAR was attached, had been raised. The battalion immediately deployed on a search and clearance operation in a nearby village. Soon after, there was a 5-day search and destroy operation. In the early hours of the 17th of August, Nui Dat was hit by mortar and recoilless rifle fire that caused 24 Australian casualties. Company-sized patrols were sent out and soon located the enemy firing positions, but by then the Viet Cong had withdrawn. At midday on the 18th of August, D Company 6 RAR moved its search into the Long Tan area. Shortly after 3 p.m, the men came into contact with the enemy in the Long Tan rubber plantation. 11 Platoon followed up the enemy and at about 4 p.m. encountered heavy opposition and began taking casualties. 6th Section was all but wiped out in minutes, and Douglas was shot through the head and killed by a Vietnamese sniper. Engaged from 3 sides, 11 Platoon was in danger of being cut off and wiped out. Monsoonal rain deluged the area, reducing visibility to 50 metres and turning the ground into slick red mud. In the hours that followed, a numerically superior Vietnamese force attempted to overrun D Company. Well-controlled artillery fire and an ammunition resupply flown in by Australian helicopters helped stave off a disaster. At 7 p.m, armoured personnel carriers from 3 Troop, 1 Armoured Personnel Carrier Squadron arrived with A Company 6 RAR on board. After a brief skirmish, the APCs linked up with D Company, and as night fell, the enemy withdrew. The next morning, the men of D Company returned to the Long Tan rubber plantation. They recovered 2 of their badly wounded comrades who had been left behind, and Douglas and his fallen comrades were still found lying at their weapons, defending their positions. It was a sight that chilled those who witnessed it. The Australians recovered 3 wounded Vietnamese soldiers and buried over 245 dead enemy soldiers. Salvaron's body was returned to Australia and he was laid to rest in the Mount Gravatt Cemetery, Queensland. He was 21 years old. Francisco Salvaron never knew his son, nor that he'd been killed in Vietnam. He passed away in 1998. When Clarissa passed away in 1997, aged 93, she was buried next to Douglas. Douglas Salveron's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among more than 500 Australians who died while serving in the Vietnam War. In the photograph displayed today beside the pool of reflection, Douglas Salveron is seen standing on the right-hand side. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Douglas Javing Salveron, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, we thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorials Development Project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.